So now, let's go back a little bit to HRV and well, we already know, but these are good examples. There are two different persons here. A young people which is healthy, and this is HRV.
So the heart rate is varying nicely.
Yeah. There is a lot of variation. They are lying on the table, both. And this is a person which is not healthy at all. And you see it's completely flat. But what is interesting is that if I zoom on the person which was completely flat, this is how is the heart rate variation after an hour of healing session. So he is recovering part of the heart rate variation. And normally he should have lost some of it because he's lying on the table without movement for an hour. If you stay without any movement, you're losing your heart rate variability. And here is recovery. So in fact, the vitality, so the stress, are related to waves. And these, the most important things in this wave is their amplitude, their variability, also their quality and their shape. So we are talking about harmony, about coherence, and to make you understand much easily, there are two voice analyses here. You see, these are a spectrum of all the frequency that somebody can have in his voice. And the top part is a very old person, but quite healthy. And you see all the frequencies are there. So the spectrum is filled with a lot of frequency. And the lower part is a young boy, about 18 years old, but he is passing his exams. And you see there are a lot, nothing more in the frequency. He's losing most of his frequency. And now we'll talk more about this afternoon, about the relationship between all this frequency and the different part of the body. But there is a relationship. I will explain more this afternoon. Well, we have already talked about carry-on photography, but I wanted to show you, this is an healthy person. So you see the light emission is quite good and everywhere is the same. And this is a low stress person, but it can go like this. You're losing really the emission of, and this is the young guy that I show you in the previous.
This is the Cranio-Sacral GDV system that Kudai is working with as well. Beautiful. So holes in the aura mean many things, but most of which is bad.
Yeah, yeah. And well,
like too many drugs or stress.
There is a relationship between. We can explain which part of the body are much stress and.
I mean, if you try to explain to a young person that stress or drugs are bad for you and they don't believe it, you show them the holes in their aura. That's astral hygiene 101. It's good stuff.
And in fact, the proof is that everything is linked inside the body. Is that that has been proved by a French researcher in France, which was Tomatis, who designed special sound. Special frequencies to listen to recover lost frequency in your ears, and he showed that, and it was also shown by other scientists, that you cannot produce a sound that your ear cannot get. And Tomatis has healed Lacalas, because Lacalas has lost his voice. And Tomatis healed her just by moving the frequency in her ears. So by making some movements in the frequency in her ears, just to push some frequency, to move some frequency, just to allow her to hear again missing frequency and recover the missing frequency in her voice. So there is a very big relationship between all the parts of the body.
So if you can't hear it, you can't say it. If you can't hear
yes.
it, you can't.
And well, and in fact, the frequency that you can hear, sometimes there is a relationship with what you don't want to hear. You're
Right.
unconscious, but it's it's proof. So let's explain a little bit how we are making the analysis of the HRV. So this is an HRV. And I have created a simulation of something which looks like I did previously in the previous slide. So I created 3 different waves. One which is 5 cycles per unit of time, one which is 10 cycles per unit of time, one which is 20 cycles per unit of time. And the resulting frequencies is this. And in fact, well, we are talking about fast Fourier, I will explain it easily. You see, when you make this special math analysis of this wave, which is a complex wave, which is composed of 3 different waves, we will get a spectrum. And in the spectrum, we get 3 peaks, because there are 3 waves. And the position of the peak will be the frequency of the wave. So we have a peak at 5, at 10, and 20. And the size of the peak will be the amplitude of the wave.
So that's Fourier transform. That's
the
spectrum
Fourier
analysis.
transform.
That's what it is.
That's how, from a complex wave, we get the single frequency which are inside the complex
And
wave.
everything in the universe is broken down in those simple sine waves. You can take a Fourier frequency signature, anything. The universe is all sine waves.
Now let's go back to what Dan explained about the out coherence. So this is what I just showed you, and this is what he showed you before. You see, and what he was getting was a beautiful cascade between all these speeds that he was getting.
And the happier you are, the more harmonics in that cascade, basically.
And maybe let's make it much more simple and think that we have a lot of peaks which are appearing in the analysis of the wave, in the spectrum frequency, and we will find a way to define what is coherence, what is harmony. And in fact, if we are looking at the relationship between all the peaks which are appearing, there is the relative position of the different peaks which is important. And the second thing is the amplitude of the different peaks. And in fact, if we want to see this relationship and the harmony of this relationship is very simple. We just draw a line and we see the shape of the line on the top of all these peaks. This was what is shown here. And what Dan found, and it's very, very interesting, the way to get the harmony between all the peaks is just to make, again, the same kind of analysis, but instead of doing the first analysis of all the peaks, is doing an analysis of the resulting red wave here. And this is the second order FFT. And this, so what he called spectrum. And this second order FFT, he showed it, and I will show you later another example. So he was getting a peak, and the amplitude of the peak was related to the quality of the coherence of all the peaks which are in the spectrum.
We could call it internal phase coherence, because before that time, you had, if you were comparing 2 oscillators, like 2 hemispheres of brain, you could compare one to the other and see how cross-coherent. But internal phase coherence was formerly thought to be not measurable until we discovered that.
So this is, in fact, Dan has also showed that by doing a lot of tests with different people and asking them how they are feeling, is that when they are about, well, if the resulting value is about 1, you're in your head, and if you are going to 0.6, you're in your heart. That's what people say. And it's very interesting because that's what he is doing also with his previous app. That makes to see the relationship between two people and how the people are in their head or in their heart. And I will show you that I have done a recording of the interactions, so the empathy between a father and his son. And so I put sensor on the father, sensor on the son. The son is sitting on the knees of his father, little child. And you will see that the little child is in blue here. So and the father is in red. So the father is much more in his head than the child. And it's accelerated, so it will be much faster on the display than it is in reality. But you will see that they will come together.
So this was a measurement of empathy.
Yeah,
when
it's
they
a measurement of the empathy. You see, there are the two peaks. So this is the father. This is which is quite close to his heart, the young boy.
The amplitude of that peak is internal coherence. So when you're feeling passionate, coherent, that goes up. But the position of that peak right left is the musical key signature, and that's what lines up when you have empathy and indicates what emotion, whether head or heart.
And now it's about 2 minutes from the beginning. And you will see what will happen.
Like sometimes a couple will hold hands at a certain moment, and then you'll see. You think about it, you know. And then they feel that rush, and you can really teach, empathy, love making you through.
And I will, with this result, I would like also to make a record in a healing session with a healer with his hand, and to see if there was happening something between the patient and the healer. And in fact, what I saw is that the healer, when he began this healing session, got immediately in his heart. And he stayed during half an hour exactly in his heart. And sometimes the patient was coming a little bit. I thought that they could encounter themselves. But here he was exactly in his heart, and he stayed there during the whole session. It's quite interesting.
It was amazing that the heart center point near 0.61 is literally the musical key signature at golden ratio with reference to seconds, whereas being stuck in your head 1.0 was a heart rate that's 1.0 seconds. It's actually the musical key signature of your heart.
Now maybe to explain you in a different way to help you to understand that, let's make a comparison about all these frequencies in music. So if you have a beautiful coherence in your body, in your heart, you will get a sound like this. See, it's a good sound. It's a lot of different frequencies, but they have a musical ratio between them. Now, if you're inside your body, you're out of tune, you will get something like that.
Very jazz.
That's also the reason why I will not put the sound, but I think that most of us know. I don't need to play too much sound yet. This is very, very interesting. Also, you see, there are frequencies which are not coherent, there are not musical ratio between them. And also, just
like crap.
So, all these things are not in correct musical ratio, but these are frequencies. Now let's talk about rhythm. Everybody knows that you cannot sleep if there is. Well, this is a very slow wave, very slow, very slow frequency, so very wave. And also this kind of thing. So, just to help you to catch the importance of the relationship between the different frequencies. And well, I like to show also this thing, that because there are pendulum, and you know each pendulum, the frequency of the pendulum depends to its size. And here, in fact, all the pendulum has been set to perfect ratio. And you will see that what's happening, and I would love that my body should, all the frequencies in my body should be in the same shape, that in the same harmony that this. You will see it takes about 30 seconds to do, but you will see that, and it's coming back here. There are perfect relationship between all the frequencies.
That's the fourth. And it's in time. There's the third.
And it's coming back.
There's the octave.
It's incredible, yeah. So let's go back to HRV.
When you say perfect ratio, what do you mean?
The length of the pendulum string was a perfect musical harmonic.
Yeah. So the frequency also. Okay, because there is a relationship.
But was it a golden mean ratio?
No, that was an octave cascade.
I don't know, but well, it's just.
But still, the pendulums came into phase because their oscillation period would be harmonic multiples. So the fact that they all start at the same moment, then you saw the moments of phase relationship as the fourth and fifth.
So let's go back to HRV. So this is pulses, like you have pulses in your heart rate, and you see there is what we are looking for is the time between two pulses. And this time between two pulses is HRV, so heart rate variation. And so here we have a lower frequency, and the frequency of the heartbeat is increasing. Well, let's say here we have 60, there is 70, and then we go down, so in this example. And in fact, what is very important to notice is that I told you before that when I'm talking, my heart rate is increased, and when I'm listening, it's decreasing. But in fact, when I'm breathing in, my heart rate is increased. When I breathe out, my heart rate decreases. That's what happened when I'm healthy.
So it's important to realize, we're getting all this beautiful data in HRV from the simple information of the number of milliseconds between heartbeats, the interval. That's it. That's all we have to take.
And that's what also Dan showed before, that in scientific paper about heart attacks and things like that, they show that when your heart is healthy, you get different peaks.
Cascade.
A cascade, yes, and what? Peaks and several frequencies. And when you're not healthy at all, it's called totally flat. That's normal because the wave is not.
So that's so important that 10,000 medical papers about just that. It's so important.
And in fact, let's talk now a little bit about the famous Mayer wave and the point when it hurts. This Mayer wave was discovered by a guy who is called Mayer, a doctor who was called Mayer, and he noticed that we are used to measure our pressure with
pressure copper.
But when he was measuring the pressure of people with an invasive needle inside the blood vessel, he noticed that there is a variation a wave which will appear about 6 times per minute, so about every 10 seconds. And what was very important is that this wave, which is a pressure wave, again, it's not like HRV. We are talking about pressure here. And
so it would be a longitudinal wave.
Well, it could travel longitudinally, but at this point it's simply a variation in the blood pressure itself, the wave on the wave. And so that's the longer wave.
And in fact, what is very important, I just told you that your heart rate is increasing where you're breathing out in, and decreasing where you're breathing out. But even if you stop breathing, this wave is still present. if you are breathing in and breathing out, there could be a relationship like Dan explained with the
Embedding,
yeah,
nesting,
the electrical
modulation,
power factor.
power, oh yeah, power factor.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So Patrick, what is when you breathe out, the heart rate increases, and when you breathe in, it decreases, or how does it work?
When you breathe in, the
Yeah.
heart rates increase. When you breathe in, heart rates increase.
Okay.
Breathe out, heart rate decrease.
Okay, because this is the way how you tonify and sedate when you do acupuncture. You know, you sedate when people breathe in, and when they breathe out, you tonify. Yeah, this is how it is.
Okay. And so what's very important is that this wave is still there even if you don't breathe. And we have a lot of very, very small tissues in our body. And let's see a small display of all these very, very small.
Like fine lace.
Yes, yes, yes. This is the shoot of a horse. You see how many small vessels are there.
And
So
so
we
fractal.
It's incredible. It's really incredible. But just to let you see that it's very important, all these very, very small vessels. And so this blood pressure variation inside your body, you can learn to feel it because your body really expands and decrease. And that's what osteopaths are feeling with their hand. It's possible to learn to recover this feeling that you have lost a long time ago when you were about 6 years old. And so, this pressure wave, is linked to, of course, piezoelectricity, and so what Vinal explained is that so the piezoelectricity is the relationship between wave and matter.
Piezoelectric is like on a quartz crystal that's helical on the z-axis. If you squeeze the side mechanically, that mechanical pressure is translated up the helix into a shorter wave called voltage.
Sorry.
So that's the long wave is that pressure. The shorter wave is the voltage. And to make the connection between the long wave and the short wave, usually it's always a helical structure that will connect the long and the short wave, the pressure to the voltage. And that's why helix like DNA and quartz works so good.
And so there is a movement inside the body. You see here, if we take the temporal, make a zoom on the temporal of your head, it will, so according to the wave, it produces a movement. And that's what we are measuring with the sensor. So this is a light sensor here. And this light sensor, in fact, is measuring the movement of what's happening in your tissue, in your finger. And we have also, it's also possible to measure in the ears. And in fact, we had a lot of problems. We talked with scientists about the way that we were measuring the pressure wave, and all the scientists said, no, what you're measuring is an artifact, because your baseline is always moving. But in fact, that's what we were looking for. We were looking for a movement in the tissue, and what they are trying to measure is to try to get a perfect baseline. What they are looking for. But we are, in our measuring, allowing the baseline to move. And this baseline movement is in fact the movement in the tissue due to the movement of the blood pulses and the movement, and so the difference in the blood pressure. Again, to this famous scale, the importance of this famous 0.1 hertz. And well, you already talked about it, Dan, about the waves that darted. So as waves are embedded in wave and wave and wave. So the more you will have an action on the lower frequency wave, the more it will entertain all the waves which are embedded in this wave. So that's the famous graph that Dan showed you before.
Wave on a wave, waving.
Yeah. And so, well, to understand also why it's so important to have this variation in your HRV, according to what David found, Dan explained a little bit about David in his presentation, that David showed that it's very important to have an activity period and then a rest period, and then an activity period and then a rest period. And that's because one of his friends, which was a marathon man, died. It seems that this guy was very healthy, but he died because, as Dan explained, it was constant. When you're making a long run at the same speed, you're constant frequency.
And then if you just stop,
And then you stop without going to
then the square wave will kill you.
You die.
The caduceus will make you win the Olympics, but the square wave will kill you. That's basically it.
And so it's very, very important that, well, even if you don't want to play with your HRV, you can do it in different ways, a lot of different ways in your life. It just not stay too long sitting during the day and make some movement. So take breaks and make some movement. And if you want to be convinced of it, just have a look at what's happening in nature. If you're going for a walk in the wood with your dog and you let it go, it will not run a marathon with you. It will run, walk, run, walk. They know that it's physiology for entertainment of each heart rate. And if you look at children playing in school, when they break school, they are not making a marathon during the 15 hours of the break. They are playing fast and then sitting, talking a little bit, and then again playing fast. So normally we know how to do, but the civilization in which we are living, forget it.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Can we say that the Mayo wave is being measured over the heart rate?
Yeah, that's what he accomplished the way to do. He could see that superposed wave on the wave. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, in fact, the Mayo wave is not really the heart rate.
But it's being measured over the heart rate.
Yeah. In Mayo wave, in the origin is a pressure wave, and it has been, well, it's not good because now we are talking about Mayo wave also in HRV, but Mayo wave originally was a pressure wave, but it's appearing also in the HRV.
In the pulse.
Okay.
And that's what Dan explained with the famous power factor.
Okay.
And then we show you that when you are very, very calm and not stressed, you have a synchronization of the two waves, of the waves coming from the HRV, which is the electrical wave, and the pressure wave from the light sensor. Okay. And I have noticed when I was designing my previous app, which was designed on a PC computer, and I have tested what was happening in evening session in Cranio-Sacral wave, and I have compared stressed people and also asked some friends to come and just to see what's happening. And I have noticed that when people were stressed, I got this perfect fit between these two curves. And so I investigated a little bit more, and then I discovered it's Dennis, and just said me, but it's a power factor. Okay, I said, okay.
So basically, when you relax, the pressure and the flow line up in phase, and that makes you powerful. It's exactly what's called power factor by electrical engineers. You come into resonance, pressure and flow, you're in the groove.
But when I explained, he said, normal.
The change
And
in
I was looking for a reason, so.
Yes. The change in the heart rate doesn't affect the Mayer wave.
Yes,
Yes.
It's actually a change in the heart rate that's very ordered that allows you to see the Mayer wave
Yes.
superposed on the heart rate.
Right.
It's a wave on the wave, and Patrick figured out how to do that.
Yes, just to explain what we did in our app with regarding, then explain the difference between HRV, so the other apps that are available, and what we are doing in our app, is that we are, as I explained, we are measuring, in fact, this shape here, this curve here, which is the resulting of all the frequency which are appearing. And so we are measuring all the musical relationship of all the frequency which are inside the spectrum. So that's the biggest difference that we have in our app. So, and also, just to explain this, and then I will try to speed up a little bit. So, you remember we made the relationship between the resulting wave here and the frequency peaks, but it's also possible to do it in the other way. So we can go back in the other way, so make an inverse Fourier transform, and then we can get the different waves. So we can show in real time the different component of the different waves which are inside the signal that we are analyzing. And that's the way that we can show in real time the shift or not between the HRV wave and the Mayer wave pressure wave.